What's going on, everybody? So today I'm going to do something similar to what I've done in the past. It's going to be a comparison between Harley Davidson Road Glide or Street Glide and the Indian Challenger. The first thing we're going to get into is something I've had an issue with a little bit, and that's the throttle control on the Indian. Now, both these bikes feature throttle by wire. If you don't know what throttle by wire is, there is an electrical wire, an electrical connection that runs from the throttle to the throttle body and tells the bike how much it needs to open or close. Whereas on older motorcycles, you have an actual cable that would manipulate the throttle, let air in. So on the Challenger in particular, not so much on the other Indian models like the Thunderstrokes. I think those are better tuned, but on the Challenger in particular, it can be pretty jerky. Indian did release a new tune back in February, and that did clear up the problem for many people. It had cleared up my problem originally, but after they had to replace the throttle body, because the throttle body was actually bad, it came back to being jerky as hell again. Won't be my problem much longer. There's something wrong with that bike, and obviously it's going away, but that's been my experience. It was okay for a while, and then it came back. The Harley, on the other hand, I have ridden the 117. I've ridden a few other Harleys, and they were all pretty smooth. They felt good. I rode the 117, the new Street Glide ST 2022, and that's the one thing I can say about it. I didn't like the way the bike overall felt, but the throttle was really smooth. That's definitely a clear advantage for the Harley. Now, when I checked out this new 22 Street Glide ST, something else I noticed that I really like on these Harleys is actually the saddlebags. The saddlebag itself, the lid, is set up basically an identical way. It opens up, and then it has that cloth, and it says Harley Davidson or it says Indian on it. Then these little wiggly, janky ass hinges, right? Now, they're both that way. The Harley wiggles around like crazy, and so does the Indians. But I really like the way that the Harley Davidson ones close. Those ones are like a little mechanical latch versus an electronic lock like the Indian has. And there's an advantage and disadvantage to both. The Harley one definitely closes super easy compared to most people's experiences. I've got mine to work properly for the most part. If you just lightly put pressure in the center of the bag, it will close steady, rock solid on my Indian. Whereas on the Harley, you don't have to worry about it not closing right, because when you put it down, you just latch it, and it's super solid. But the disadvantage of this is you have to lock those by hand. They can't be electronically locked. On the Indians, they can be electronically locked, which is cool because you can use your key fob or the button on the bike. But I really do like that latch feature on the Harley as far as ease of closing the lid. So definitely, depends on what you're looking for. Another point of stress, I think, for people that are using the Indian Challenger, and that's the power windshield. Now, the power windshield is definitely a pretty cool, advantage to having the Indian, right? But the issue is a lot of people are complaining that the mechanism is actually breaking. Now, I haven't actually had problems with this. I use the power up and down feature on my windshield all the time, including using the automatic function where you double tap it and it automatically raises or automatically lowers. I do that all the time. Mine's still solid. It might break. Will it break before the bike's gone? Probably not. But a lot of people are dealing with that issue. On the Harley, you might not be able to raise the windshield, but I think that one actually looks better the way it's mounted, and you don't ever have to worry about it breaking like that with any kind of mechanism. So that's definitely an advantage on the part of the Harley. Now, I know I've talked about this a little bit on another video, but Harley's paint jobs also are pretty good looking. They do some cool paint jobs. They look good on the bikes. The colors, I don't like how many black bikes they make. They make way too many black bikes. Like every Harley I seem to see is black. There's so few out there that aren't black. That's something I think they should make less of, because it's always just this black sea of Harleys out there that you see, and that's most of it, right? They do offer other colors, guys. There were a few other colors when I went to the dealer to test ride. Like, I had that new gunship gray. That's what I test rode, and that was beautiful. They do offer quite a few colors on these bikes. Not sure why people aren't getting those, or why dealers aren't ordering those other ones, because they definitely look great. And that's something Indian needs to work on too, in order to make the bikes a little bit more competitive with their rival. And people want more color choices, and that is something you will see on Indians. They're not just all black. They produce many colors, and they're constantly sending out those colors to dealers. So if you're looking for something that's not black, I guess go to Indian, because there's a good chance they'll have it. But they need to work on the quality of the fit and finish on these bikes, because Harley Davidson is definitely doing it better. I'm not a big fan of the way Harleys look in general. I do like the body styling of the Indians more, but they do need to make the fit and finish better like Harley Davidson does. I keep hearing these arguments about how much customization there is for Harleys. All right, let's talk about that, because you can go to a good painter or whatever and get an Indian customized just like you could do with the Harley. There are quite a few companies out there making custom parts for Indians now. It's not like you can't find any. If it comes down to paint jobs, you definitely can get paint jobs just like a Harley. No difference there. And as far as like custom performance parts, right? Yeah, there aren't that many for the Indians. But on the flip side, the Indians run really well from the factory, so you don't really have to upgrade them like the Challenger. The Challenger from the factory, even the base model, is running as hard as the 131. You don't have to spend $10,000 to make it run better, where you have to spend all kinds of money to make the Harley Davidson run anything close to like an Indian runs. Even the Thunderstroke models, they just seem to feel better than the Harleys do until you upgrade the Harleys. And that's kind of a bad thing, though there is plenty to choose from out there. I mean, if you want to spend thousands and thousands of dollars customizing your bike to make it close to competitors, or just to make it faster, or whatever you're doing it for, then Harley Davidson is who you want to go with. But if you want a bike that works really well right from the factory, that's what Indian's offering. You might not have as many parts to customize, but they're really not needed. Now, along those lines, I will say Harley Davidson's pricing, from what I could see, like if you get dealers to install stuff, like let's compare the Stage 2 cams. If you look at the Stage 2 cam on the Indian Challenger, the total install price, everything, when you go to a dealer to get the Stage 2 on the Challenger, is like over $2,000. I don't think I've seen a lower quote than $2,000. Whereas on Harley Davidson's, if you have your bike in there like a Road Glide or whatever, and you're trying to get the Stage 2 cams, I've seen quotes as low as $1,000. I've seen people getting those between $1,000 to $1,300. That's a pretty big difference. And in both cases, you do need to install the Stage 1 stuff. Otherwise, having a cam is pointless and could even possibly be bad. It wouldn't run right without that stuff. So at the Indian price range, you're looking at like at least $3,000 for a Stage 2 upgrade altogether, including the Stage 1. With the Harley, you're looking at like $2,000, at the most. So it's quite a bit cheaper actually with the Harleys, which actually is something that surprised me. And the parts on Indians cost way more than Harley's parts do. There's no denying that. While you do have to pay to upgrade Harleys a whole bunch, their parts and installs are definitely cheaper, because these guys have been working on them forever. And even though they're nickel and dime and everything, it's not nearly as bad as Polaris is doing right now. All right, now another point that I hear brought up a lot, and it is a fair point, and that is there are a lot of Harley dealers. And with Harley dealers come Harley service centers. Now, Indian definitely has a lot of locations now. Like, there's no denying they're getting bigger. There's quite a few dealers out there, but there are places where there still are not dealerships, and you might have to go a few hours to get to one. And for many people, that is a deal breaker, and I get it. I can't sit here and say that Indians run perfect and you won't need the service center. I definitely think yeah, maybe you do need Harley service centers more because they break down, but I think overall, really, they don't break down as much as, you know, we make fun of them for. So you might not need those service centers. So it might be a valid argument to say, oh, well, it's there if I need it. Well, if you're planning on your bike breaking down, there's probably something wrong to begin with there. But if you're just, you know, talking about peace of mind, and yeah, if it does happen, it definitely is an advantage on Harley's part to have so many places where you can get a repair. If you were, you know, 300 miles away from a dealership for Indian, you know, they're going to pay to have a tow truck come out and pick up your bike, but they're only going to pay for some of that. They're not going to pay for the entire trip. That's a long trip. There's always service limits, right? And so when you don't have a dealer network set up where somebody has something close by, that's not good. And I can definitely see why that would turn people away from buying one. But it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because if, you know, Indians are definitely selling like hotcakes right now, but if people are turning away because of that, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if more dealer support isn't needed, which we know it is needed, but if there aren't people in these areas buying bikes, why would they even bother putting dealerships anywhere near them? They're putting dealerships in like major areas, and that's the issue. Of course, we don't need a dealership in Montana when nobody lives in Montana, right? So why would they put a dealership there? It would just be losing money. Whoever opened that dealership would go out of business. So it's obviously unrealistic to open businesses or open dealerships when they're not needed. Overall, I couldn't see myself buying a Harley considering the out-of-the-box performance, the need for upgrades for that performance to match some of its competitors, specifically in this case Indian. I do like some of the stuff better that Harley offers, but it doesn't seem like a good value for the money compared to what Polaris has with their Indian line. But if you're one of these people that falls in a category of, you know, well, I need to have service centers or anything else that I, you know, talked about before, there are some advantages to it, but some of those are also disadvantages, like we discussed. I don't see myself switching, especially after having ridden a few of those things, giving them a chance to see how they feel. I just didn't like it. It wasn't for me. Obviously, there are some things that are appealing about the Harley lineup. Whatever bike you choose, have fun, stay safe, see you around.